Chapter 4. And Jehovah went on to speak to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, In case a soul sins by mistake in any of the things that Jehovah commands should not be done, and he actually does one of them, if the priest, the anointed one, sins so as to bring guiltiness upon the people, then he must present for his sin that he has committed a sound young bull to Jehovah as a sin offering. And he must bring the bull to the entrance of the tent of meeting before Jehovah, and must lay his hand upon the bull's head, and he must slaughter the bull before Jehovah. And the priest, the anointed one, must take some of the bull's blood and bring it into the tent of meeting. And the priest must dip his finger in the blood, and spatter some of the blood 7 times before Jehovah in front of the curtain of the holy place. And the priest must put some of the blood upon the horns of the altar of perfumed incense before Jehovah, which is in the tent of meeting. And all the rest of the bull's blood he will pour at the base of the altar of burnt offering, which is at the entrance of the tent of meeting. As to all the fat of the bull of the sin offering, he will lift up from it the fat that covers over the intestines, even all the fat that is over the intestines, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, the same as that upon the loins. And as for the appendage upon the liver, he will remove it along with the kidneys. It will be the same as what is lifted up of a bull of the communion sacrifice. And the priest must make them smoke upon the altar of burnt offering. But as for the skin of the bull, and all its flesh along with its head and its shanks and its intestines and its dung, he must have the entire bull taken out to the outskirts of the camp to a clean place where the fatty ashes are poured out, and he must burn it upon wood in the fire. Where the fatty ashes are poured out, it should be burned. Now if the entire assembly of Israel makes a mistake, and the matter has been hidden from the eyes of the congregation, in that they have done one of all the things that Jehovah commands should not be done, and so have become guilty, and the sin that they have committed against it has become known, then the congregation must present a young bull for a sin offering, and must bring it before the tent of meeting. And the older men of the assembly must lay their hands upon the bull's head before Jehovah, and the bull must be slaughtered before Jehovah. Then the priest, the anointed one, must bring some of the bull's blood into the tent of meeting. And the priest must dip his finger into some of the blood, and spatter it 7 times before Jehovah in front of the curtain. And he will put some of the blood upon the horns of the altar that is before Jehovah, which is in the tent of meeting. And all the rest of the blood he will pour at the base of the altar of burnt offering, which is at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And he will lift up all its fat from it, and he must make it smoke on the altar. And he must do to the bull just as he did to the other bull of the sin offering. That is the way he will do to it. And the priest must make an atonement for them, and so it must be forgiven them. And he must have the bull taken out to the outskirts of the camp, and must burn it, just as he burned the first bull. It is a sin offering for the congregation. When a chieftain sins, and he does commit unintentionally one of all the things that Jehovah his God commands should not be done, and so has become guilty, or his sin that he has committed against the commandment has been made known to him, then he must bring as his offering a male kid of the goats, a sound one. And he must lay his hand upon the head of the young goat, and slaughter it in the place where the burnt offering is regularly slaughtered before Jehovah. It is a sin offering. And the priest must take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger, and put it upon the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and he will pour the rest of its blood at the base of the altar of burnt offering. And he will make all its fat smoke on the altar, like the fat of the communion sacrifice. And the priest must make an atonement for him for his sin, and so it must be forgiven him. And if any soul of the people of the land sins unintentionally by his doing one of the things that Jehovah commands should not be done, and he does become guilty, or his sin that he has committed has been made known to him, then he must bring as his offering a female kid of the goats, a sound one, for his sin that he has committed. And he must lay his hand upon the head of the sin offering, and slaughter the sin offering in the same place as the burnt offering. And the priest must take some of its blood with his finger, and put it upon the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and he will pour all the rest of its blood at the base of the altar. And he will remove all its fat, just as the fat was removed from off the communion sacrifice. And the priest must make it smoke on the altar as a restful odor to Jehovah. And the priest must make an atonement for him, and so it must be forgiven him. But if he would bring a lamb as his offering for a sin offering, a sound female lamb is what he should bring. And he must lay his hand upon the head of the sin offering, and slaughter it as a sin offering in the place where the burnt offering is regularly slaughtered. And the priest must take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger, and put it upon the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and he will pour all the rest of its blood at the base of the altar. And he will remove all its fat, the same as the fat of the young ram of the communion sacrifice is regularly removed. And the priest must make them smoke on the altar upon Jehovah's offerings made by fire. And the priest must make an atonement for him for his sin that he has committed, and so it must be forgiven him. Chapter 5. Now in case a soul sins in that he has heard public cursing, and he is a witness, or he has seen it, or has come to know of it, if he does not report it, then he must answer for his error. Or when a soul touches some unclean thing, whether the dead body of an unclean wild beast, or the dead body of an unclean domestic animal, or the dead body of an unclean swarming creature, although it has been hidden from him, still he is unclean and has become guilty. Or in case he touches the uncleanness of a man as respects any uncleanness of his, with which he may become unclean, although it had been hidden from him, and yet he himself has come to know it, then he has become guilty. Or in case a soul swears to the extent of speaking thoughtlessly with his lips to do evil or to do good as respects anything at all that the man might speak thoughtlessly in a sworn statement, although it had been hidden from him, and yet he himself has come to know it, then he has become guilty as respects one of these things. And it must occur that in case he becomes guilty as respects one of these things, then he must confess in what way he has sinned. And he must bring his guilt offering to Jehovah for his sin that he has committed, namely, a female from the flock, a female lamb or a female kid of the goats, for a sin offering, and the priest must make an atonement for him for his sin. If, though, he cannot afford enough for a sheep, then he must bring as his guilt offering for the sin that he has committed 2 turtle doves, or 2 male pigeons to Jehovah, one for a sin offering and one for a burnt offering. And he must bring them to the priest, who must present first the one for the sin offering, and nip off its head at the front of its neck, but he should not sever it. And he must spatter some of the blood of the sin offering upon the side of the altar, but the remainder of the blood will be drained out at the base of the altar. It is a sin offering. And the other one he will handle as a burnt offering according to the regular procedure, and the priest must make an atonement for him for his sin that he has committed, and so it must be forgiven him. Now if he does not have the means for 2 turtle doves or 2 male pigeons, then he must bring as his offering for the sin he has committed the 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour for a sin offering. He must not put oil upon it, and he must not place frankincense upon it, for it is a sin offering. And he must bring it to the priest, and the priest must grasp from it his handful as a remembrancer of it, and must make it smoke on the altar upon Jehovah's offerings made by fire. It is a sin offering. And the priest must make an atonement for him for his sin that he has committed, any one of these sins, and so it must be forgiven him, and it must become the priest's, the same as a grain offering. And Jehovah continued to speak to Moses, saying, In case a soul behaves unfaithfully, in that he actually sins by mistake against the holy things of Jehovah, then he must bring as his guilt offering to Jehovah a sound ram from the flock, according to the estimated value in silver shekels, by the shekel of the holy place as a guilt offering. And he will make compensation for the sin he has committed against the holy place, and he will add to it a fifth of it. And he must give it to the priest, that the priest may make an atonement for him with the ram of the guilt offering, and so it must be forgiven him. And if a soul sins in that he does do one of all the things that Jehovah commands should not be done, although he did not know it, yet he has become guilty and must answer for his error. And he must bring a sound ram from the flock according to the estimated value, for a guilt offering, to the priest. And the priest must make an atonement for him for his mistake that he committed unintentionally, although he himself did not know it, and so it must be forgiven him. It is a guilt offering. He has positively become guilty against Jehovah.